contentious Uniswap vote is drumming up a debate over just how decentralized the exchange truly is. At the center of the concern is VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, which invested in Uniswap and earned a massive trove of the project's Uni tokens, crypto assets that double as votes in the exchange's decentralized autonomous organization. Joining us to discuss is Compound Labs founder Robert Leshner. Robert, so minutes ago, voting ended on the proposal to deploy Uniswap v3 on the BNB chain using the wormhole bridge. A16Z used 15 million Uni tokens to vote against the proposal, but ultimately you voted in favor of it, and your vote, among others, won. So your reaction?
Yeah, well, I think this is a significant victory for the Uniswap community and protocol. I firmly believe that the more blockchains that Uniswap is deployed on, the better. I'm, pretty agnostic to chain. There's a lot of, bias within the crypto community, largely over which chains, something should be deployed on. There's a lot of tribalism, but I firmly believe that the more, the better. And the controversy, that began in this vote came down to a very simple choice of a vendor to provide cross-chain broadcasting services to transmit governance votes. This is not to bridge assets to Binance Chain. There's already bridges to Binance Chain of assets, but this is actually to bridge governance decisions that will be made on Ethereum to the BNB deployment of Uniswap. And this is where there began a lot of controversy, starting with a snapshot vote over which service provider to use, that led to this becoming what should not have been a contentious vote, turning it into a, very, highly debated vote.
Yeah. Well, A16Z is the largest voting entity on Uniswap, and A16Z representatives say the firm's votes were cast against the proposal because of concerns about wormhole security. And along with A16Z, you're a layer 0 investor. So why vote yes on the wormhole bridge, layer 0 being a competitor wormhole and also a potential consideration as an alternative?
Well, first of all, I try not to let my, personal investments bias, what I think I need to vote for Uniswap or any protocol. All of my votes in Uniswap are delegated from other community members. And so I try to, remove any personal preferences I have when conducting those votes. I think that's, difficult, but I try to be as objective as possible. So, pushing aside the fact that I am a layer 0 investor and believe the tech there is incredibly strong, I think this is, important from a timing perspective. So Uniswap's V3 license is expiring soon. And either the Uniswap community is going to have a canonical and official deployment on Binance, or the license expires and anybody can create a fork of Uniswap v3 on Binance Chain. Now, that's a forcing mechanism in my mind. And I think it's, one of the primary arguments for voting yes is that any delays in the process of releasing Uniswap v3 on Binance Chain will only jeopardize, the Uniswap community's presence there. And so, I think the most important thing is speed. Now, that being said, I actually think the security concerns of any bridge provider are actually less impactful than they would be in other situations. And the reason is because they're not bridging assets. The only thing they're bridging are governance communiques from Ethereum. And Uniswap is famous for being governance light. There's almost actually very little that governance can do besides direct the treasury of Uni tokens on Ethereum or set the fee parameters of Uniswap. Governance can't modify the code base. Governance can't take the user's assets. Governance can't interfere with the operation of Uniswap on Binance Chain. So no matter what bridge provider selected, even in a worst case scenario, the worst case is a lot less bad than people might otherwise suspect. People have heard about, wormhole getting hacked or layer 0 having, a security, vulnerability. Those things don't matter in the context of Uniswap v3 on Binance Chain as much as they would if they were actually bridging assets for users. So in my mind, it was a clear, trade-off, which is the speed and importance of deploying Uniswap versus, having a slightly superior bridging technology.
So if it wasn't for that April 1st deadline, would you have, if let's say it were, I don't know, August 1st or December 1st, whatever it is, would you have still voted the way you did, or do you think would you have gone along with A16Z. And isn't that essentially, you're essentially, no matter what, you're trying to vote your interests here, right? In your opinion, getting it on the BNB chain, getting everything done as quick as possible is in your interest versus, just the, oh, well, I have an investment in this other bridge that, seems to be better.
Well, technically, it's actually against my own interest is the way I voted. And that's because I'm trying to vote specifically just for the community members that delegated Uni tokens to me, even if it's at my own personal expense. So, that's the first thing I need to say. The second thing is that the calculus of, how the votes would change if the license was expiring in the future, it's hard to predict. I think it's possible that, I would have, voted differently if there was another 5 months to deploy this. But every delay in getting Uniswap deployed is jeopardizing its market position.
All right, and another issue I would say that is at the heart of this is, as aforementioned, that A16Z, they have a huge stash of these Uni tokens. Based on a tweet from A16Z's head of engineering, they own at least 55 million Uni in all, counting the tokens it has delegated. And A16Z representative recently told CoinDesk that its agreements with delegates theoretically allow the firm to reclaim its delegated tokens should it so choose. And so I guess the concern here was, just how much power do you think A16Z has?
Yeah, well, I think they've very diligently made the choice to cede a lot of their power by delegating their tokens to student groups and other members of the community. And, I don't see them, going back on that choice. I think, they're trying to further the genuine decentralization of Uniswap by taking that action. And I honestly think that in the long run, having more stakeholders capable of voting is in their best interest. And so even though they technically have the power to revoke those delegations, I don't think there's any situation in which they will, unless somebody, behaves with malfeasance or something terrible, which I don't think is the case. So, even though they might have the power to change their delegations, there's probably not a scenario in which they will, because that would actually be against their own interest.
The long term is stepping back here, and given that they voted the way they did and that they didn't succeed, do you think that this strengthens the case for Uniswap? Do you think that this shows it as being decentralized, or at least that whatever big 800-pound gorilla is hanging around there, it seems to be willing to take a nap, if you will, and let it grow? Do you think that this is a net positive for Uniswap?
I think it's a net positive for two reasons. One, I think the right choice won. And I think when we see Uniswap deployed to Binance Chain with Wormhole as the bridge selection, I think it's going to perform phenomenally. And so I think the correct decision was made for the community. Second, I think these contentious votes show that there are genuine differences of opinion within the community. And, they're not always going to have consensus. And I think it's healthy for there to be debate. If things just get rubber stamped or steamrolled, then, it's in the counter interest of the community. And so, I love to see situations where things, are contentious, where they don't get rubber stamped, and when there is genuine pushback, because it makes the whole system stronger.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert. Appreciate your insights. We should note that just as A16Z, though, does not disclose the full size of its Uniswap holdings, neither do other parties. Nevertheless, that was Compound Labs founder Robert Leshner.